And may I say that Zimbabwe has already shown enormous and demonstrable displays of great development. And if you've been there, you will be as impressed as I was. I was just gobsmacked.
Gobsmacked, not routine diplomatic praise. President Cyril Ramaphosa was saying that Zimbabwe's side of the Beitbridge Border Post left him astonished. So, has Zimbabwe built the border that South Africa is still struggling to deliver? Did this week's South Africa-Zimbabwe Binational Commission finally close that gap? The answer is more revealing than the ceremony. Zimbabwe's modernization of Beitbridge was not merely announced, it was built. The approximately $300 million project was developed through a public-private partnership under a 17.5-year build, operate and transfer arrangement. It introduced separate processing facilities, automated gates, scanners, surveillance cameras, and new traffic management systems. Listen to President Ramaphosa.
They have built a new border system where people who are crossing get processed, cars get processed, trucks that carry goods get processed within a short space of time. They have the camera that sees what's in the vehicle and all that. Completely different from our side.
Ramaphosa's reaction was not new. After inspecting both sides in 2023, he said South Africa looked like an underperformer and could copy what Zimbabwe had done. That is the first uncomfortable fact. The Zimbabwean facility is not a future promise, a draft memorandum or a committee. It physically exists. But here is the distinction that the applause can obscure. A modern facility on one side does not automatically modernize the entire border. Ramaphosa's official address says, average truck crossing time has fallen to roughly 14 hours. That is a major improvement from trucks waiting several days. But 14 hours is still 14 hours. The deeper problem is duplication. A traveller or truck still encounters two sovereign systems that have not been fully fused. The proposed one-stop border post is meant to align them. Yet Ramaphosa's own words were precise. Underdevelopment means it is not yet operational. South Africa's enabling bill has passed Parliament and been sent for presidential assent. But the complete cross-border system has not arrived. This is the dissonance at Beitbridge. Zimbabwe has modernized its physical gateway. The two-country operating model remains unfinished. Is South Africa doing nothing? No. In April 2026, the government announced selected bidders for an estimated R12.5 billion program to redevelop 6 major land ports, including Beitbridge. That qualification matters. The entire R12.5 billion is not for Beitbridge alone. And selected bidders are not the same thing as completed terminals. South Africa has a substantial catch-up plan. Zimbabwe has the facility, Ramaphosa has already walked through. One is delivery, the other is still prospective. Take a listen.
Zimbabwe is fast emerging as a global participant. South Africa is increasing its investment in exploration and beneficiation. We've said for many years that our minerals should be processed at home, that we should export finished products. Together, we need to put that aspiration into practice.
There is evidence behind some of Ramaphosa's optimism. Bilateral trade reached R81 billion in 2025, nearly double its 2021 level. Zimbabwe's economy also rebounded strongly, driven by agriculture and mining. But the trade relationship contains a pronounced asymmetry. South Africa exports approximately 8 times more to Zimbabwe than it imports. Finished products mainly travel north, while raw and semi-processed commodities travel south. But more attractive does not mean Zimbabwe has resolved its deeper problems. Debt remains distressed, poverty is widespread, and investor confidence still depends on stability. Ramaphosa's praise is not baseless, it is incomplete. A modern border cannot, by itself, prove that an entire economy has been transformed. Let's take another listen.
As neighbors that have so much to offer each.
That is the diplomatic position. Cooperation, lawful movement, and continued dialogue. But it did not create a new right of free movement. Listen more.
Remember, in SADC, we have a protocol on the free movement of people and goods as part of the integration of the region. So that is obviously part of the conversation.
The protocol exists, but SADC confirms that it is not yet in force. The BNC did not abolish immigration controls, create automatic work rights, or establish unrestricted movement. One concrete agreement concerned correctional services. Listen to the Correctional Services Minister.
This agreement is very important in this sense that the biggest number of foreign nationals in our facilities are from Zimbabwe. After Zimbabwe, it comes to Mozambique. We're talking about 8,200 Zimbabwean nationals who are in our facilities. With this memorandum of understanding, we can now transfer them back.
That figure refers to people in correctional facilities, not Zimbabwean migrants generally. Prisoner transfer must not be conflated with deportation or voluntary repatriation. The full terms remain unpublished, so we cannot claim all 8,200 people will be transferred automatically. So, is Zimbabwe ahead? On the visible physical infrastructure at Beitbridge, Zimbabwe has clearly moved first. South Africa has announced an ambitious redevelopment program, but its rebuilt facility and the promised one-stop system are not complete. The BNC strengthened cooperation. It signed real agreements. It did not announce an operational one-stop border, a construction deadline, or a completed South African facility. Gobsmacked may sound like a colourful word. Behind it lies an uncomfortable question. How did a neighbour with a much smaller economy complete the border infrastructure that South Africa is still preparing to rebuild? This is not about declaring a winner. It is about execution. Zimbabwe built. South Africa is preparing to catch up. The next test is whether two separate stops finally become one functioning border. Tell us what you think in the comments. And if you have not watched our analysis of Ronald Lamola's statement that South Africa cannot be isolated, that video is on your screen now.